Hey, good afternoon. You are all at the free webinar, Video Game Market Research, Concept Testing, and Gamer Feedback. My name is Michelle Sherritt, and I am the VP and co-founder here at Situated Research. And we are bringing you this webinar live today. The things that we're going to discuss today are how your game can come up short using traditional market research. So we're going to talk about traditional market research, how it just doesn't own up anymore to the way that we should be marketing our games. We're also going to talk about methodologies and tests that you can run on game concepts to gain more valuable feedback to make your game better. And then we'll talk about how you can gain insight with a mixed method approach to paint a more detailed picture of your user experience and to inform future games you will develop. So as far as digital games go, now in 2016, it's more complex to build a game and it's more expensive. And we've really found that early stage market research really has a lot of benefits to it. And so we'll kind of go through those benefits during the webinar today. We've also found that using sample users prior to design, and it makes sense, really helps when we are designing a game to make it great the first time around and not have to do a lot of iterations of user testing. And it gives us an insight into our gaming ideas good ones, or is this game going to be a flop? So it really does help us. We also get to analyze gamer experience. So once we have a prototype, we're able to test that prototype on users and gain an insight into their experience while playing the game. We can look at playability of the game. We can see if the game's fun to play. And we can look at the level of engagement. Do users want to continue to play the game when they end the game? Are they like, oh, I got to go back and beat this certain level? Or are they kind of like done with the game? So, and everything from marketing to UX or production, we are involved with here at Situated Research. So we do that, the first steps through market research. So we can do that through online surveying. And in the online surveying, we really can figure out who our market segmentation is and figure out what size to go after. We can test our concepts, and then we can also test at pre-launch and post-launch as well. So really with online surveys, we can do it at any stage of the game. So as far as market segmentation and sizing goes, we can develop a comprehensive understanding of the consumer segments that exist. And then we can narrow the size of the segment as well. We can identify opportunities for new ideas during the brainstorming process of game development. And we really have to, when we're thinking about market segmentation and sizing, what's our industry? Well, our industry is video games. Well, who plays those video games? We need to look at the geographic information of our users, the demographic information. So look at age, gender, occupation, etc. But we also have to look at our users' behavior. So we have to look at past users who have purchased games from us. Here at Situated Research, we've done market research and usability testing for companies who are well established, like EA, Sony, Disney. But we've also worked with indie companies. So, gaming companies just starting out. A lot of them in Canada we're working with right now. And so it's kind of hard to figure out what the behavior is of the users because they've never force. We have nothing really to go off of. But what we can go off of is the type of game and kind of look at other gaming companies and who did they have their focus on as far as purchasers, as far as gamers go. So some people, when we do this webinar, are like, oh, we're just a new gaming company starting out, just building our first game. How do you do that? We can just look at the type of game that you're building and then, like I said, look at those metrics for those games in the past. But we look at price, we look at the quality of the games, We also look at user status. Are these first-time users? Are these expert users? Is it like Madden football where they've played every single version of the game that comes out every year? That would be an expert user. And we also look at usage rates. So we look at do they lightly play the game? Do they heavily play video games? Do they heavily play these types of video games? And then what's their loyalty base? Are they loyal to the brand, to the company, to the game? Maybe not so. Maybe they just tried the game out because there's a bunch of hype about it, or what's their level of loyalty we look at as well. So we really want to emphasize social aspects as well. So emphasize that 4 players can play at once versus Connect where only 2 can play at once. So we have to look at the gaming system as well that the game will be played on, because that will help us too, not only in the beginning stages and figuring out who our market segmentation is and sizing, but also to find out when we do user testing, how are we going to develop it? How are we going to do it? So it's important to understand the social aspects of the game as well. And the biggest thing that we like to talk about here is simplicity. The simpler the game, the better the user experience we find, because if it's simple and quick to learn and it's not complicated, that almost always equals a fun gaming experience for the gamers. Not having overly complicated graphics or gestures or control combinations, like with the making your me on the Wii. You just make it and then you play the game. Very simple. And it's an easy way to build your character, and then you just play the game. It's not complex at all. So people like that. So who are our consumers? Here's some stats here. 11% of the market are power gamers, so they account for 30% of spending in the video game industry. 13% of the market are social gamers. They enjoy gaming as a way to interact with friends. A lot of them are playing games on Facebook, board games. 14% are leisure gamers, so they spend about 58 hours per month playing. They prefer challenging games. And then 24% are occasional gamers, where they play puzzle games, word games, or board games mostly. So I just wanted to throw in some flops. And everyone in the gaming industry pretty much knows these flops that we're going to talk about. But the first one's the Duke Nukem Forever game. This game, gamers waited 14 years for it to be developed, and it was announced in '97, and then it didn't come out until 2011. However, when you played the game, it looked like a game that came out in 2005, and it played like a game that came out in 2005, and it was a huge flop because it was a huge disappointment to gamers who had waited, who were loyal gamers to the brand, to the game. So that kind of stunk. Had concept testing been done, using quantitative and qualitative methods, we would have been able to evaluate the consumer response prior to the game going to market. And that really helps, and it makes sense. Some gaming companies are kind of like, I don't want to do user testing until the game's developed and we have something to actually test. And they don't understand that a game can be tested all the way from the brainstorming process. And it gives us greater feedback before we spend all these dollars in marketing and developing and then doing user testing at the end and finding out, well, this whole section of the game in some cases has to be redeveloped. And then the gaming company is like, we just don't have the time for that. We told the public it would be out at a certain time. We've spent all these marketing dollars. We're not going to wait. We're just going to put it out there. And that's when you get the gaming flops, like Duke Nukem. So with concept testing, we conduct interviews, we do surveys, online surveys, we run focus groups. So in combination with various quantitative methods to evaluate a concept before we even start developing. Most marketers, they'll use surveys and other market research or their own experience. So as far as quantitative concept testing goes, we have three categories here at Situated Research. The first is that we do concept evaluations. So any ideas that are presented during the brainstorming process, we present those to consumers. We want to get a heads up. We want to get some idea of what they're looking for. So quantitatively evaluating consumers. Consumers can indicate purchase intent, the likelihood that they're going to try the game, and what their play level is. So that gives us some insight before building a game. As far as quantitative concept testing goes, the second thing is positioning. So concepts are positioned in the same functional class, and then they're evaluated together. And the third is product/concept tests. So consumers first evaluate the concept, then the corresponding product, and then we compare those results. Now, where traditional concept testing has flaws, it has inadequate means to identify and quantify criteria based on consumer preference of one concept over another. There's no comparing. Market researchers would be generalizing how consumers might react to the actual concept because they're not actually asking users. And there's no real systematic approach that's known to accurately identify criteria for consumer choices. Traditional concept testing has failed to provide enough information for marketers and designers to create games specifically tailored for their audience because they don't know what to build for their audience. They're basically just going off of what their team thinks the users might want. Traditional testing methods, they fail. They fail because they do not accurately quantify relationships between consumer response to idea or consumer choice of existing games. So the flops, like E.T. was a flop, a major flop. Pac-Man for Atari accounted for the 1983 video game crash. Most video game releases have been commercial failures, and it cost these companies thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars actually. 10% of published games generate 90% revenue. So there have been flops. As I stated, E.T. was one of them. It was probably the worst example of a game that was made from a movie. It was made in literally 5 weeks, and it showed. And gamers had no idea how to play it or even what to do. I never actually played this game, and Dr. Sherritt, my husband, he had me play. And I was like, well, what do I do? And he was like, yeah, exactly what you do. What are you supposed to do? There's no guidance. It's not intuitive. I had no idea what to do. I'm like, this is dumb, and I just shut it off. This is what happened with users, and it was a complete flop. Pac-Man for Atari. The home version had big anticipation, and so it got rushed to the 1981 Christmas deadline, and it was boring, and it was confusing. And it led to Warner Communications selling Atari in 1984. And Atari never regained that position in the market again because of this flop. So what are some steps for clear concept ideas? So when you're doing the brainstorming process at the beginning, it's just an idea. Your team's just coming up with an idea. You have a small team of designers, tech leads, concept artists, etc. Sitting around a table coming up with the idea. You have to have a main goal. You have to decide what your game is going to be about. Write down clearly the concept so anyone can understand it. And decide on majority gameplay elements. Also create concept art. This is important because some people are visual people. And generate a story. This is so important, and this sounds like, duh, like, don't gaming companies do this? No. You gotta generate your game idea. You just have to. So there are different methodologies and tests that you can do. And here at Situated Research, we assist gaming companies with doing these. But the first is online survey research. And we talked about that a few slides ago with market segmentation and sizing. So that really helps us to develop a comprehensive understanding of our consumer segments that exist. We get the size of the segments, we identify opportunities, which help us to look at the concepts and the brainstorming that has come up in those brainstorming sessions and say, this isn't going to work at all. Well, we need to reconfigure this and think like a gamer. This is what they're expecting. This is what they're looking for. So then we look at the overall concepts. We gauge the viability before investing in development. That's going to save you huge dollars. We want to identify key strengths and areas of improvement as well. We want to hone in on our target audience. Gather consumer feedback, get a feature list together, get a concept description together, and even sometimes video footage. So with online survey research, we can do this pre-launch, and we can also do it post-launch. You can pretty much do it anytime during the development or brainstorming process. For pre-launch, we can effectively market the game through building a comprehensive idea. And so we can look at the psychographic information, we can look at the demographic information, etc., and we can test price points, we can run ads, everything. As far as post-launch goes, we can do online survey research by gathering consumer feedback to gain insights for future development. And we can quantify consumer satisfaction and intent to buy again. And this is important because some gaming companies feel like, oh, this was a great hit. We really nailed it. Let's make a series out of this video game. And sometimes it's overdone. I kind of feel like Madden is getting to that point. I don't specifically off the top of my head know how many years it's been out, but every year, new game. But it's the same game. The graphics are just better. And it has updated team members and players. That's pretty much it. So it's kind of like, is that game at that point where people really don't intend to buy again? Maybe they'll buy it one more time and they're kind of like, I figured it out. It's just better graphics and the players are updated. I don't know. What can we do to make that game better for the user's experience and our gamers? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. And I would say doing some online surveys would really help out. But going back to the process of developing a game, brainstorming is huge. And we can be along for the ride from the very beginning of coming up with ideas for a new game. Ideally, that's what we'd like to have happen. I'll be completely honest with everyone who's attending today. It's not a big secret, but situated research and our usability experts normally, I'd say 98% of the time, are brought in once a game is ready to go out to the public. And I don't understand why this always happens. If people would bring us in at the very beginning, we would be able to help them to develop a game that when it went to market would not be a flop. Users would love it, want to continue playing it, and would want a series out of the game. Bringing this in at the very end, as I stated earlier, costs gaming companies way more money because we find all these issues with the game as far as usability goes and sometimes quality assurance as well. And like I said, the gaming companies are like, well, we just spent a lot of money developing this game, a lot of money marketing. We have a deadline, and you're telling us that this whole section of the game stinks and we have to redo it? Well, yeah, users played it and they don't like it. Here are the issues, A, B, C through Z, whatever it is. Here's how to fix it. Do you want to do it or not? And 9 times out of 10, they don't. They might fix a few little things that they can fix before it goes to market. And not all the games, I'm not saying that all the games that we look at are flops, but most of them could have been a lot better had they brought us in from the very beginning. So if you do that, which is ideal, the indie companies get it. They bring us in right from the get-go, right at the brainstorming process. But EA, Sony, Disney bring us in at the end. And so it's like, okay, again, You know, we really need to be brought in. We explain the importance. They still don't get it. So anyway, as I'm going to go off on a tangent. But anyway, bring us in at the brainstorming very beginning, because then we can do idea map, and we can help from coming up with initial ideas to prototyping. And through the development with user testing throughout, that is so key and so important. And some gaming companies are like, isn't that more expensive? No, because you have to understand, if you bring us in at the end, you have a game that you already developed. You conducted no user testing throughout the whole entire process. Now you got to go back to different sections of the game and fix it. And if you don't, you just put it to market. What kind of game are you putting to market? We already had users test the end result. These sections stink. They need help. These are the problems. This is how to correct it. Why wouldn't you? So you want to make your users have a good experience. I mean, all this makes sense, but in the big picture, the big gaming companies don't get it. You have to get expertise in usability and business development throughout the entire process. It's going to save you so much money in the long run. And we have tons of case studies to prove that. We also do UI sketches, so can create low fidelity prototypes. That's a great place to start with your ideas. And we can facilitate those UI brainstorming sessions. So they're just basically sketches and basic functionality that can give your new game idea a voice of its own and kind of work out with paper prototyping. So as far as traditional market research, we kind of talked a little earlier about why that flops and why it doesn't work. We are not supposed to conduct traditional market research, and some companies insist on doing this in conjunction with other methods. But we're not opposed to doing it, is what I meant to say. Sorry, I think I said we aren't allowed to do it. We're not opposed to doing it because some gaming companies are like, yeah, we've been doing that for years. It works. They think it works. And so we're like, yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem. We'll do whatever our clients want. But we can see where your idea fits in the marketplace and where it doesn't. Client confidentiality is paramount here at Situated Research. So we have everyone who's involved sign a non-disclosure agreement. And some gaming companies are like, well, can you give us some case studies? Can you tell us of some game titles that you've worked on? And we can only name a few because of that confidentiality. And a lot of the bigger gaming companies really don't want you to know that they hired out a usability firm because they have, and I'm putting in quote marks, their usability team. And so they don't want to put that out there that they hired usability experts, which is fine. So we hold confidentiality of our clients very, very close and near to our hearts here at Situated Research. And we're very strict about it, of course. So as far as methodologies and tests that we can do online surveys, but we can also do play testing and focus groups throughout the process of developing the game. So we can conduct hands-on game testing, and not in the lab. We actually test users in their own natural environment, which is kind of cool. We do have a lab location where it's set up like a living room and there's hidden cameras. And we just allow a person to bring a friend and play the video game for as long as they want to play, and we videotape it. Or we can do it on site at your location as well. We can also do traditional focus groups, and we do about 100 to 300 plus gamers, or we can do smaller groups of 20 to 60 when we do those focus groups. Like I said, we can do on-site or in a lab setting, and our lab setting is not a traditional lab, as I said. Recruiting of players is all handled by us, so it's not outsourced, and we screen gamers for quality control before we choose them. So here at Situated Research, we've conducted single-player, cooperative, multiplayer play tests. You gain a comprehensive understanding of your game from both quantitative and qualitative perspectives. So gamers will evaluate the game through individual surveys and discussions, as well as traditional focus groups. When we do our focus groups, we have about 5 to 10 participants per group, and we have multiple groups conducted in order to cover all target audiences. Our moderators have experience conducting over 1,000 plus groups. We watch and direct the discussion in real time, so you can learn about your gamers' attitudes, beliefs, desires, and reactions to concepts, and everything's videotaped. And I don't know if I have that in here. Yeah, I don't, but I might later on in the slides. We use a cloud-based program called Transana, where we can upload our video, share it with our other usability experts, and all collaborate and take all of our experience and apply it to the video game footage and pick out segments of the video footage and say, during this section of the game, users were bored. This is what they verbalized. We transcribe all of our video. We also do Jeffersonian notation, which is in the transcription, anything that's nonverbal. So if someone gestures or they sigh or they laugh or they say something loudly, that's all in there because that helps us to analyze the video. And so you get those clips with a report as well and a presentation. So you get a lot when you work with us. We also do guided interviews. So focus groups provide group consensus on what consumers really want. And the interviews accomplish the same without bias of what others want in a group. The moderators normally influence participants by guiding the questioning in a certain direction. We say this over and over again, but we utilize our expertise to get unbiased and accurate responses from users. So when we develop our questions, we make sure that our questions don't lead our users into a certain direction that we want them to go into. Now, what that means is normally gaming companies have their own usability team. And again, I put my quote marks up. You guys can't see me, but I'm doing it. And they ask questions of their focus groups, but they're biased because they work for the gaming company. They want to see the game succeed. They want to limit production time. So they ask a certain question to a user and they answer a certain way, and they guide them into a certain answer that works for them. So they don't have to redo a certain section of the game or whatever the deal is, whatever they want the user. So it's guided, and that's not getting honest feedback from a user. It just really isn't. It's not an accurate response. You're guiding them. You're pushing them into a certain direction. So that's why our expertise is great, because we don't work in your company culture. We are a third party coming in. And so that also helps with a new set of eyes on your game as well. So we inform design. We just ask the right questions. We can help you figure out what users desire. How satisfying is it to play the game? Is the game fun? This is going to generate area of focus for your design team as well. And it's going to help guide the design process too. We also here at Situate Research do something that we call cyclical testing. Cyclical testing, if I can say that. Basically just going in a circle. So we hone in on design and usability. We verify changes that informs design. We gain huge returns, and we do multiple testing. So we just keep doing that circle. Redesign, test, feedback, keep going. And some gaming companies are like, that's gonna totally push out our deadline. No. If we do it together, work together as a team, it will not take any more time. So just keep doing that cycle, and it works every time. We can also conduct expert reviews. Now, like I said, about 98, 99% of the time we're brought in at the very end, once the game is ready to go to production, or I'm sorry, ready to go to market. So at that point, what we do is an expert review. where we don't bring in users. We have one of our usability experts review certain sections of the game, sometimes the entire game, but usually sections of the game where the gaming company is like, we think we have an issue with this certain section. Can you give us your expertise on it? So we do a thorough analysis and we can nail down design and key findings in our report. And we can help to guide the design path and meet business objectives by doing expert reviews. As far as usability testing, it's perfect that the user interface goes great with the actual gaming footage because you get to see what's going on the screen, and then you get that footage as well that we talked about. We recruit gamers with demographic and behavioral profiles that meet your specifications for your game. And we develop customized discussion guides that are unique to your interface for after gameplay. So what do we do? Our motto is we keep it simple, we evaluate in situ, and we video record gameplay. So as far as keeping it simple, our results are very clear, concise, and to the point. We make usability research very straightforward. And as far as we evaluate in situ, that means in a natural environment. So we study the actual environments where your game is going to be played. We provide you with video game footage, and we evaluate that footage, and we report back those results and solutions to you. So we just don't give you a problem and say, here you go, good luck. Just a real quick story. The way that we started Situated Research was back in 2008. We were at the Meaningful Games Conference in Michigan. It was the very first one. And the keynote speaker was from EA. And he was talking about the game Spore that they developed. And he said, you know, we spent all this money developing Spore, and then we brought in a usability company that was out in San Francisco that's no longer in existence. And he's like, we spent over $1 million for these usability people to come in and test our game and to basically give us video footage and a report of issues that they found. And that was it. They didn't tell us how to fix the issues. They didn't give us any solutions. The issues that they found were very minor. And he's like, as you know, Spore was not one of our big hits. Once it went to market, people were kind of like, what was all the hype? So they spent over $1 million. So anyway, my husband and I were sitting there at the conference, and this was before we started Situated Research. And the reason why we were there, long story short, is my husband's dissertation. He has a multidisciplinary degree, PhD, in information computer science. And so it's communication. It's huge. Part of it, usability and information architecture and computer science and psychology and all of these things roll into his PhD. So we were there because he, in his dissertation, videotaped and recorded and evaluated high school kids taking video games and bringing them into a classroom setting and applying what they learned in the classroom to the video game. So like Roller Coaster Tycoon, he brought into a business class, into a local high school. Making History, The Calm of the Storm, he brought into a history class. Civilization, he also brought into a history class. So that's why we were at the gaming conference. But when the keynote speaker at EA told us the story, we sat there and we looked at each other, and that's when Situated Research was started. We're like, oh my God, we could do this. We could do this 10 times better. We could actually give them solutions. We could, because of the methodologies that we use and the theories that we use, can find specific issues with the gameplay and the user experience that other usability companies have no idea about. And so that's why we started Situated Research. So that's our story. Getting back to the slides, as far as usability testing goes, we have experienced researchers that are going to review that video of the gameplay in the gamer's natural environments. We're able to identify areas needing improvement provide suggestions for much needed improvements, and the cameras record the user's face and the screen simultaneously. And as I stated before, we transcribe the entire conversation using our cloud-based software, Transana. So I do have a slide about it. I thought I did. So Transana is an awesome platform, and we connected with Dr. Woods up at the University of Wisconsin, who developed Transana, and it's a usability research platform, basically where we can take video clips and have that up with a transcription. But it's cool because it's cloud-based, and we can share it with any of our researchers all over the United States, because our usability researchers are everywhere, and also out of the US too. They don't work in a home base. So we're able to share that video with them. They're able to evaluate it as well, which is an added bonus, because then you have more than 2 or 3 usability experts who are here in Chicago. You have people from all over who are experts. So our cloud-based platform can look for patterns of use. As far as the gameplay goes, we can look at key results. We can do qualitative research, because it's a qualitative research platform. We can complete recursive analysis, so show user behavior. We can build multiple transcripts. Experts study those interactions, and then we examine the user interface, the way users communicate, and how users learn. We can also conduct remote user testing. So again, in the user's natural environment, that's key. So that the user doesn't feel like they're the ones being tested. We want to test the game, the user experience of the game. So the user's not getting tested at all, which is a big thing that we find when we've talked to companies. They're like, oh, we hired a usability company before, and our users felt like they were being the ones tested, and we wanted the game to be tested. So that's huge for us. And we get, through remote user testing, rapid feedback from users, and that informs design quicker. And we have that power of user testing, so we can gain quick user feedback. So that pretty much ends today's webinar. If you'd like to learn more about our services, visit our website at situatedresearch.com. And you can also visit our website, situgames.com. Situgames.com is specifically for our video game division that we built, and so you can go ahead and check that out. If you want to contact us, there's our contact information. So I'm actually going to switch you to a little ad for Situated Research. So you can go ahead and view that. And I want to thank all of you for attending today, and have a great day. Ever wonder what goes through the heads of your gamers? Situated Research analyzes player engagement, resulting in games that are more fun to play. From market research to UX testing, we've got you covered. Visit situgames.com to learn more.